There is a peculiar silence that falls over a trading floor when a company everyone believed was untouchable suddenly shows a crack, not a collapse. Just a hairline fracture in the story everyone had agreed to believe. In the fall of 2023, that silence fell over the investors and devoted customers of a company called Bloom Brew. It was a coffee chain, but calling it a coffee chain feels insulting. It was a cultural institution, a third place that had survived the death of third places, a brand that convinced people to pay $7 for black coffee and feel good about it. The crack appeared on a Tuesday morning in October. The CEO Margot Vance announced she was leaving, not retiring, not stepping down amid scandal. She was leaving to become CEO of Sky, one of the world's largest airlines. A coffee executive running an airline. The audacity told you everything. For Bloom Brew, the reaction was swift and brutal. The stock dropped 12% in a single session. That's not a correction, that's a verdict. For nearly a decade, Bloom Brew had been the darling of the consumer sector. It survived a near-death experience in the mid-20s, a period insiders still call the delusion. It rebuilt itself from a punchline about overpriced beans into one of the most admired and profitable restaurant companies in the world. It convinced Wall Street its customers were inelastic. They would pay whatever the company charged because the experience was worth more than the coffee. Then Margot Vance walked out the door to manage flight delays and baggage fees, and within 2 years the entire thesis unraveled. The question nobody asked during the good years suddenly became the only question. How much of Bloom Brew's resurrection was the business model, and how much was the sheer gravitational force of Margot Robbie's? By the end of 2025, Bloom Brew reported its first full-year decline in comparable store sales. Since the dilution, the stock had been cut in half. Billions in market value evaporated. The customers who once lined up around the block were brewing at home or giving their money to new specialty roasters. This is the story of how a coffee company brewed one of the most impressive turnarounds of the past 20 years, tied its entire identity to one person, and watched the whole thing go cold when she left. Bloom Brew was not founded by Margot Vance. It was founded in 1998 by Peter and Eliza Calder in Portland, Oregon. The first location was a tiny, damp storefront that smelled permanently of roasting beans and wet wool. The Calders had a radical idea. They believed coffee could be both exceptional and accessible, not cheap but understandable. They hated the pretension of specialty coffee, the sneering baristas, the secret menu, the feeling you needed a glossary to order a latte. Their philosophy was called craft without the cloak. They wanted you to taste the difference between single origin Ethiopian and washed Colombian, but they didn't want to make you feel stupid. It worked beautifully. The company grew slowly through the two. They opened stores in neighborhoods, not malls. They paid farmers more than fair trade and published the numbers before transparency was a trend. By 2013, Bloom Brew had over 600 locations, a loyal customer base, and a reputation as the thinking person's coffee chain. They went public in 2014. The stock performed respectably. It was a good company. Then the delusion began. The dilution was not a single event. It was a slow creeping rot from within. The Calders had stepped back after the IPO, handing control to a management team recruited from fast food chains. These were smart people who knew efficiency, but not coffee. They saw a platform for growth, not a custodian of craft. They cut costs in ways invisible on spreadsheets, but devastating on the ground. Barista training was shortened from 6 weeks to 10 days. The coffee was still good, but the experience frayed. Baristas were less knowledgeable. Stores felt less cared for. Pastries went from local bakeries to frozen mass-produced items. Customers noticed not with a boycott. They just came less often. The special occasion trip became once a month. Once a month became maybe if I'm in the neighborhood. Same-store sales turned negative in 2016 and stayed negative for 7 quarters. The stock lost 60% of its value. The Calders, watching from semi-retirement, were heartbroken. Their company was becoming exactly the soulless chain they set out to replace. By early 2018, the board knew they needed something drastic. They fired the CEO and searched for a savior. That search led to Margot Vance. Margot Vance was not a coffee person. She spent her career in luxury hotels, most recently as CEO of the Aldo collection. She knew ambience, she knew service. She knew the alchemy of making people feel welcome. Without being upsold, coffee was just the liquid in the cup. The board was skeptical. What does a hotel executive know about running a coffee chain? But Vance made a compelling case. She argued Bloom and Brew's problem wasn't that people stopped drinking coffee. It was that the company stopped treating its stores as places people wanted to be. They had become transactional. Vance's vision was to restore the sense of place. She took over in April 2, 2018. The stock barely moved, the market was in wait and see mode. But Vance moved fast. Her first move was not a new drink or logo. It was a directive to every store manager. Fix the bathrooms. It sounds trivial. It was not in the customer experience world. The condition of a bathroom is a leading indicator of respect. Vance knew this from hotels. A clean, well-stocked, pleasant bathroom signals that management cares. Within 3 months, every bathroom was renovated. With better lighting, nicer soap, and local art, the message was subtle but unmistakable. This is not a gas station. She then turned to the baristas. She reinstated the 6-week training program and added a week-long immersion at the roasting facility in Portland. She raised starting wages significantly and introduced profit sharing for store employees. The logic was simple and expensive. If you want people to care about your customers, show them you care about them first. Wall Street grumbled, Vance ignored them. Her third move was transformative. The digital experience was abysmal. The app was slow, clunky, and crashed when reloading gift cards. Vance poached engineers from an e-commerce platform and tasked them with building a digital ecosystem that felt as warm as the stores. The new app launched in early 2019. It remembered your usual order. It suggested drinks based on weather and preferences. It let you tip on mobile orders. And it had a feature called Brew Now. That started your drink when you were 3 minutes away. The results were steady. By late 2019. Same-store sales turned positive for the first time in 2 years. The stock climbed, then the pandemic hit. While the industry panicked, Bloom and Brew was prepared. The digital infrastructure Vance built was suddenly essential. The drive-through lanes she redesigned became lifelines. The company emerged from the pandemic stronger. By 2020, same-store sales grew in the high single digits. By 2023, double digits. The stock had risen over 400% from Vance's start. Analysts wrote glowing reports. Competitors tried and failed to copy the model. Margot Vance was on magazine covers. She was hailed as a visionary. Then in October 2023, Aerosky called. The airline industry is a different beast. Capital-intensive, unionized, regulated, and at the mercy of fuel prices and geopolitics. But it offers a platform that rivals the presidency, invisibility, and complexity. For Vance, the challenge was irresistible. She had fixed coffee, now she wanted to fix the skies. The Bloom and Brew board was caught off guard. They had no successor. They named CFO Gerald Fincher, a capable but uncharismatic numbers man. As interim CEO, the stock fell 12%. Fincher projected stability. The playbook was in place. No dramatic shifts for about 6 months. Things seemed fine, the stores were clean. The coffee was good, the app worked. But a funny thing happens. When you remove the visionary from a vision-driven company, the playbook becomes a script. And a script only takes you so far. The first sign of stagnation came in spring 2024. The new seasonal drinks were fine. Lavender honey latte, spiced orange cold brew. Pleasant but no spark. No story, no discovery. Customers tried them once and went back to their regulars. The second sign was more troubling. Customer satisfaction scores began a slow decline. Complaints were not about the coffee. They were about the feeling. The stores felt less special. Baristas seemed less engaged. The bathrooms, once a point of pride, showed deferred maintenance. By summer 2025, the cracks were undeniable. Same-store sales turned negative in the second quarter. Fincher blamed the macroeconomic environment. Inflation was squeezing consumers. People were trading down, all true, but competitors were not suffering equally. Smaller specialty chains were growing. The problem wasn't just the economy. Bloom and Brew had lost its reason for being. It had become once again a transaction. In fall 2025, the company announced a new strategic plan called Roots and Reach. It involved refreshing store designs, introducing more loyalty tiers, and expanding into the Southeast. Fincher presented it with the enthusiasm of a man reading a warranty agreement. The stock yawned. The plan was a collection of tactics in search of a strategy. No unifying idea, no soul. And the customers who had been the backbone of the brand, who downloaded the app, endured pandemic. Lives felt part of something special started to drift away. Not with a bang, just a quiet fading. The morning visit became an occasional afternoon treat. The treat became a memory. By the end of 2025, the numbers told the story. Same-store sales had declined for the full year. The stock traded at roughly half its peak. The market cap fell below the level reached during the dilution. Gerald Fincher stepped down in early 2026, citing personal reasons. The board began another search for a savior. Bloom and Brew didn't fail because the coffee got worse. The beans were still ethical, the roast consistent, the baristas friendly and competent. The company failed because it mistook a person for a plan. Margot Vance was not just a CEO. She was the embodiment of a certain care and attention that cannot be codified in a strategy document. She had an instinct for making a space feel welcoming, a customer feel seen, and employee feel proud. When she left, she took that instinct with her. What remained was a very large, efficient, well-funded coffee chain that had forgotten why it existed. The story of Bloom and Brew is a reminder that businesses are not just machines for producing revenue. They are collections of people, ideas, and feelings sometimes. The most important asset on the balance sheet is not a building or a secret recipe, it's the person who stands at the front of the room and makes everyone believe that what they do matters. When that person walks out, the belief often walks out with them, and all that's left is the coffee.